afternoon, everybody. I'm Jay for the Photography Academy, and welcome to this afternoon's top guest webinar with photographer Bill Abernethy, and he's going to be talking to us about his incredible photography. I do believe Bill's online with me. Hi, Bill. Are you there, bud?
Yes, I'm here, Mark.
Brilliant. Or Jay. I know I've confused you because you're showing as Jay on my panel.
Jay. Jay. Do you know what? It's showing up as talking. Mark,
that's my fault because of the way I've got my configured settings. But brilliant. I can hear you, so you're with me. So just a few more minutes while I've got loads of people joining us live online with us at the second there. Bill, just tell us a little bit about you, how you got into photography, and how you kind of got into the amazing architectural photography that you're going to share with us today.
No problem, Jay. Basically, I have a background in the printing trade, civil service, and education. My journey is basically in 3 stages. Started when I was 10 years old. I took what was then a Kodak Instamatic out into the countryside, snapped away, and to this day, the film has never been developed. I just had an urge after using the camera, seeing the image through the viewfinder and composing gave me that passion to proceed. Through the years, I upgraded the cameras, of course. My rangefinder, I'm trying to think of the Russian one that I used, my first first SLR, Zenith EM. Anybody remembers those days? The second part of my stage started when I got my first digital SLR about 10 years ago, and that gave me darkroom control and moved my photography forward leaps and bounds. I'm self-taught. I've not attended any courses and I've no qualifications. The third and most important part of my photographic journey probably started about 5 years ago when I joined the societies. Up until that stage, I'd never entered a competition in my life. During the past 3 years, I've gained 26 monthly gold awards, numerous highly commended. I've had 2 nominations. In 2012, I was awarded the Architectural Photographer of the Year, and in 2013, I received a nomination for Landscape Photographer of the Year and was beaten to the prize by a very worthy winner, Chris Mullins, who I know has been on a webinar before. So basically, I've been registered as a small business for the past 5 years. My main photographic passion is for architecture, which I fell into by accident, and that's a result of the success I've had with the societies. But I've also had success in monochrome, landscape, and fine art photography. I'm not a people photographer, and I envy those people who are. I'm a dyed-in-the-wool technophobe, as I've already explained to yourself, Jay, and thus for me it is a question of keeping it simple. I often accuse myself of winging it. I don't follow convention when using software, and my attitude is if you have a camera, an eye for an image, and a little knowledge, basically that's what you need. I'm hoping that when people see my images today, that they will realize that if I can produce images to a competition standard, that anybody can. And basically that's where I want to start off from. That's the idea of the talk today, so I hope that's of some use.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant, Bill. And please don't sell yourself short that you don't photograph people, because I've had the preview of seeing the images that they're going to be sharing with you today, and I would I'm definitely coming to your locations, as we've already discussed. So I'm not going to hog any more of the conversation. I'm going to hand you the screen over, Bill. So if you just all bear with me, I'm just going to hand it over to Bill so you can see his images, and I'll tell Bill then when we've clearly got his screen visible to us all, and he'll get going. So there we go. So if you just want to put that into slideshow mode for us, Bill. Brilliant. And just before I do finally hand it over, I'm going to mute myself, but please, any questions you have for Bill, send them through to me via the question panel. And like I said, if they're relevant to the image that Bill's talking about, I'll feed them through, or I'll stockpile. I've already got a few questions from them. They're already coming through. But please send them through, use the question panel, and then I'll feed them through to Bill as you go. So Bill, I'm going to mute myself. All over to you, mate. I can see the images all nice and clear for us.
Cheers, Jay. Thank you very much. Well, everybody, welcome to a very damp Northern Ireland. I hope some of the images you see will encourage some of you from around the world to maybe visit us someday, and I'm always here to show you around if need be. But this is my first image, the one that really started me off on my journey into architectural photography. This is the Titanic drawing office in Belfast. It took me 6 months to get into this building, and when I did, I was just awestruck by the actual vision that I had in front of me. This image has been edited to a great degree. If you go into this building, it can be quite grey and dull. I saturated the image to give the image overall a sense of drama. This to date has been one of my most popular selling images. It's sold through a number of locations in Northern Ireland and throughout the United Kingdom. So that's the first image which brought me success in the systems. Also for the fact that there is a theme going on here, and the theme will be Titanic mostly. I'll go on to the second image now. And here we are again, part of the outside of the new iconic Titanic building, which I should say is a themed visitor attraction, and it's a monument to Belfast's maritime heritage. It's built beside the slipways where Titanic and its sister ship Olympic were launched. It was opened in 2012 and was expected to attract 425,000 visitors per year. In its first year, it attracted over 800,000 visitors. And this is a must for anybody interested in architectural photography. So if you come over here, you must see this building. Beside it are part of the buildings of the old drawing office, so they are side by side. My next image, I felt this one included the Titanic theme with the new Titanic building. Just here, this is the actual drawing office where I took the previous photograph, the first photograph from, where Titanic was first. Here we have Goliath, which is the largest crane in the world. So the whole lot of this, the whole image here is the theme of Titanic itself. I am a big fan of monochrome, and I think monochrome is the best medium for architectural photography. That's just my own opinion. Next image. Again, this is from the front. This is the front entrance to the building, and the statue there is Titanica, which was a sculpture, obviously, which was made to commemorate Titanic itself. Next image. This is from the back, a back view of the Titanic building, and I like the fact that the cloud was reflected in the windows at the top, and I deliberately kept this symmetrical, as indeed most architectural photographs are meant to be. Again, close-up of Titanica and the building itself. I've been very, very fortunate, and you will see in most of my images of Titanic the cloud formations. I can assure everybody that these have not been added. Usually when I'm going out to take photographs, architectural photographs, or any photographs for that matter, I like a bit of atmosphere in the sky, and for that I feel I need clouds. So I've been fortunate in as much as the times I've been down at Titanic, the cloud formation has been very, very, very good. Again, it's not just about the overall building and architecture, it's about individual aspects of architecture. And I got a gold award for this in the monthly competition, the Society's monthly competition, for showing this particular aspect of the Titanic building. This one was taken just as the sun was setting, and it could be described, I suppose, as a landscape photograph as well. But like I said, I like to show all aspects of architecture, and this was just taken from a side angle of the building.
Now, Bill, I'm going to stop you if I may.
Drink of water.
I'll stop you if I may, just before we get on to one of my favourite images. Just a couple of questions that have come through already, which I thought was quite interesting, because especially you were talking about the clouds and everything else. Do you use any HDR techniques in your photography, or are you just increasing transaction and contrast, saturation and contrast?
No, basically, I must be honest, I mean, when you look at the clouds through the viewfinder, or even for the normal eye, they don't look as dramatic as that. I find usually when I bring it into Topaz, I use Topaz software quite a lot, and when I bring it into Topaz Clarity, that seems to enhance the cloud effect. And also Silver Efex Pro, which again further enhances it. So there's obviously things there within the cloud formation which is hidden from the human eye, which you can't necessarily see in the viewfinder, but it is there. So between Topaz Clarity and Silver Efex Pro, that's how I enhance the clouds, Jay.
Brilliant, Bud. Thanks for that. You carry on, mate. Are you there, Bill?
Right, so this was at the light show evening for the launch. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? Yep. This was at the launch of Titanic building, which was actually the light show. And there were fireworks that went with this. There were approximately 5,000 people here on the night. And if I show using the cursor here, just at the front, there was actually barriers across here. And I positioned myself right at the front of the barrier, getting the perfect view of the image, not realizing that 10 minutes before the light show took place, about people traipsed out and stood in front of me here, blocking my view. Thought spoilt. However, when the 5,000 people had left, my wife and myself were the only two people left. The organisers obviously saw me with my camera on my tripod and started the light show all over again, especially for me. Otherwise, this photograph may not have been taken. So tripod was used for this, fairly long exposure obviously, and only for the kindness of the people who are showing the light show, this photograph might not have been captured. Again, one of my favorites as well, Jay. Next one. Right. This, deservedly or not, was the image which won me the award of Architectural Photographer of the Year in 2012, which by coincidence was the 100th anniversary, the centenary of that ill-fated voyage, Titanic. This was taken approximately 2 weeks before it opened in April 2012. And what you don't see is a fence surrounding it. I had to set the camera on top of the fence and take a number of shots, hoping that one would turn out correctly. Also, what you don't see, and I had to remove them using the cloning tool, are the workmen, cables, and various pieces of equipment and tools. So very, very pleased with the image. Totally unexpected that I won Architectural Photographer of the Year for it. And I'm still trying to find out who bribed the judges, but that's another story. On to my next one. Right, this looks very, very futuristic. I'm not a fan of shopping centres, but this is a viewing tower in a shopping centre in Belfast, Victoria Square, and I feel it looks like a spaceship ready to take off. I was drawn to this. I had a fascination for this, to the extent where I was slightly worried and thought I should receive counselling, because I was visiting this place almost on a daily basis, took hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photographs, and this is one which I was particularly pleased with, which was taken during the evening just as it was getting dark. So really love it. If you ever get over to Northern Ireland as well as Titanic Belfast, it might be worth paying a visit to this as well, because it's well worth photographing. My next image, again of the same viewing tower, but this time taken during the day. And again, I'm very, very happy with the image. Used the same software as before, Silver Efex Pro and Topaz Clarity. My next one. Right, this one to me looked very much like an ear, somebody's ear. This is the Havana Hotel in Barcelona, if that's the right pronunciation. My wife and stayed there for a few days. I walked in, looked up, and in the atrium of the hotel, this is the image which appeared before me. And even before I checked into the hotel, the camera was out of the bag, and I was lying on the floor looking up at this because I just thought it was so worthy of taking a photograph of. My next image. Right, this is called the Rise, R-I-S-E sculpture in Belfast, commonly known to locals as the golf ball, and I'm sure you can appreciate by seeing it why. Again, very fortunate with the cloud formation, where the sun was and the shadows which were cast. So overall, very, very pleased with this image. Next one. This is called the Metropolitan Arts Centre. It's a new arts centre in Belfast. And I was taken by it purely because of the geometric shapes of the building and also the fact that the cloud formation, the clouds were reflecting in the windows. I have been asked by people, did I stick the bird in? No, I didn't. Hands up, in all honesty, I did not. I had to wait for a few moments while the bird just got into the right position, and I took about 5 or 6 shots because I felt something was missing if the bird wasn't there. But no, happy that the bird was in the shot. My next one, my wife and I don't know if it's an age thing or not, but we've taken to cruising in the past few years. So this is actually the atrium on a cruise ship. And I suppose if you weren't told that and if you hadn't been on a cruise, you wouldn't recognize it as such. But again, architecture, no matter where it is, and no matter what form it takes, whether it be in a ship, whether it be in a building, whether it be outside as part of a landscape, I find all architecture fascinating. My next one. This is the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao in Spain, and basically I just wanted to be left here for a month. Wouldn't have cared about the weather. Just leave me here with this building. For anybody that's into architecture, photography, again, this is a must-visit building. I didn't even go into the inside of the building. I didn't need to. There was so much to photograph from the outside. The shapes, the various shapes are just endless, and it lends itself to monochrome photography. Right, this one here again is another view of the Guggenheim Museum, and like I said, it's just a portion, a very, very small portion of the building with the steps leading up into it, and I would advise anybody to go and see it and to spend as much time as possible looking around it. Again, another view of the Guggenheim from one side. This was successful also on this image with the Society's Multicom. And the final one, I think, is the Guggenheim. You can see here the various angles and shapes, and I defy anybody not to want to lift their camera if they ever visit this museum.
I'm just going to interrupt
Next
you
one.
there, Bill.
Right.
I've got a
you've all
couple
heard of the gent.
Got a couple of questions for you there, pal. I know there's a slight delay between me and Bill, so I know that you guys probably think I'm interrupting him there. I think it was relevant when we're looking at those Guggenheim images, which I'm incredibly jealous of. A couple of questions that have come through sort of about when photographing buildings. We haven't really discussed your equipment as yet. Are you using, what's your design, what is your favorite sort of lens for shooting architecture with, Bill?
Well, I have the 14-24 Nikon lens, which is just, obviously it's for architecture it's a gift. You just can't go.
And to be honest, that's what I know that you and I have previously discussed.
Lens. I have also obviously the 24 at its widest. Yep, and the 70 if I want to pick up on architectural details. So those are the two main lenses. I also have recently, camera I won last year was the Fuji XE1 for the Photographer of the Year award, and I use a 14mm lens on it as well, and I'm getting results comparable with the D700 for that, so hope that explains it.
Yeah, one of the other questions that came in was when obviously there's a lot of perspective in your images, do you ever use any sort of tilt shift effects within your editing software?
Yeah, basically I use the only one I use, Jay, is the lens correction within Photoshop CS6. That's the only software which I use to correct the converging lines or whatever, just to straighten the image. So that's the only piece of software I would use.
Brilliant. I'm going to let you keep talking. I just thought they were relevant to that, especially those sections that you did on the Guggenheim. So I'll leave you get going again, and I'll stop you if I think we need to.
No problem. Fine. Thank you very much. That'll do great, Jay. This is an image for anybody who's familiar or has heard of the Causeway Coast. This is an old schoolroom which is actually right beside the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland. Victorian schoolroom, and the story goes with it. I'm on the board of governors of the local primary school, and we took the primary school up here to show them what Victorian education was like scared the living daylights out of them, because there was a lady there who got into the mode of a Victorian teacher and behaved like a Victorian teacher. Absolutely scared them rotten. But I thought it was worthy of photographing. On this particular image, I've actually used Topaz Adjust for anybody who's aware of that particular software. It does give a slightly HDR effect. I haven't overdone it. You can really overdo it. This is termed the psychedelic effect in Topaz Adjust, the psychedelic option. But particularly pleased with this. This building has been closed recently, so I'm glad I captured it. Next one. Not particularly religious, but I find cathedrals fascinating. The architecture just leaves me breathless. This is Armagh Cathedral in Northern Ireland, and I particularly like the Celtic tiling, which you lead your eye into the image. Black and white, part colour, and I think it suits the area. My next one, for anybody who's been to Coventry, you should be well aware of the fact that this is the controversial, or part of the controversial for some people, Coventry Cathedral. And I was just amazed at the colours and the light coming through the stained glass windows in Coventry Cathedral. This one here, I can never remember if this is Beverley Minster or York Minster. It's one or the other. I have a feeling it's Beverley Minster. Again, slight topaz adjust used in this, which gives an almost HDR effect to the image. On to the next one. This is the tallest building in Northern Ireland, the Obel Tower, which by London standards means it's pretty small, but it's the tallest building, 28 floors. I just like the building. I got away with the fact that I angled the image, and it was recognized in the monthly competition by the societies. Right, this was taken in January, my visit to the Society's convention in London, and basically I leaned back. My wife held me steady while I directed the camera up at the London Eye. Took a few different examples of this, but this is the one I like the best. And I felt that the London Eye is again something which is ready and primed for photography by architectural photographers. So really pleased with that particular shot. Right, this one, I was surprised to get a monthly gold award for this. I entered this at the last minute expecting nothing from the Society's monthly competition. This is in St Anne's Cathedral in Belfast, and this is extremely controversial because St Anne's in Belfast is a fairly old building, and when this was added to, the steeple was added to it, there was an awful lot of controversy because it is so modern. I literally lay on the floor underneath this, looked up, took a photograph, darkened the edges so that all you see in it is the steeple actually going up into the sky. And I thought from your architectural photographs this would be an appropriate one to end with. This is another general overview of the Titanic Belfast. From the back, I already showed you a photograph earlier of this portion, the drawing office, and the Goliath crane. This was taken during an event at the Titanic Belfast, and this is a reasonably recent one. And again, it's another image which I think is helped by the fact that you have a really, really, really imposing skyline. So that's the end of my images as far as architecture is concerned. But if I have the opportunity and I have the time, I'd like to show you an example of some of the other work that I do. So,
oh, please do, Bill. You've got plenty of time, mate.
You're happy enough, Jay? No problem. Right. This is Ballintoy in County Antrim, part of the Causeway Coast. Obviously a landscape photograph. It's two images sandwiched together, joined together. This image leads me to think of, I was accused once by a relative of being a chocolate box photographer. And I suppose you could say, yes, this photograph wouldn't look out of place on the types of box of chocolate was used to get years ago. I eventually settled my set. If you want to call me a chalk photographer all day long, I'll be happy to take their money. I showed you that I had success with architecturally in the societies. This was the first image I had any success with at all in the Society's monthly competition. And this was one of the final voyage of the QE2. This was it coming into Belfast. Again, the story goes with this. It was an October day. The rain was horizontal. I'd waited for 2 hours. I just bought the D700 the day before. I was sitting out with an umbrella on one hand and the D700 in the other, and I snapped. Thus, the grainy effect to it almost looks more like a fine art print. If you saw the original image of this, you would not believe that this was created from the original image. And of course, with the red arrows coming in the background there, it just all fits together. I titled this image Hello and Goodbye because the HSS, as you see on the right-hand side there, the Stena HSS, was passing at the time. It was like the two ships saying hello and goodbye. And both are actually out of service now. So, but really, really pleased with this, and this I've sold quite a few of these as well. Again, the Causeway Coast. This is a National Trust beach, Portchurch Strand, and the sun was coming in from the left-hand side, and heavy thundery clouds were coming in from the right-hand side. Just the right place at the right time. Pure luck that I was able to snap this. This was entered in landscape category, and I got a gold award for this as well. Right, this one here is of Donald Coat, which part of the castle fell into the sea. If any of you ever come over to Northern Ireland and visit the Causeway Coast, again, this must be part of your visit. Very atmospheric, and again, another shot I was quite happy with. Right, this is Portchurch Strand Beach, again the National Trust beach, and the gentleman you see there just here is a hunter for he can find. He has a license to search for gold or anything which might be washed up on the beach from the Spanish galleons, which of course were shipwrecked there during the time of the Spanish Armada. And this is my wife walking away in the distance, bored, totally bored. But again, taken at the same time as the image I previously showed you of the Portchurch Strand, with the sun coming in, catching the waves, and the thundery heavy clouds coming in this side. I really, really love this shot. This was taken in Malaga, and I liked the fact of the cobblestones and the general overall view. There were gratings here which I had to remove and clone out. And again, this was recognised in the travel category of the monthly competition, Society's monthly competition. This was taken on a cruise ship. Yeah, and this was taken using Topaz Adjust with the psychedelic effect. If you saw the original JPEG image and this image, there is just no comparison. I find that this Topaz Adjust plug-in really gives impact to images. To stop using it because I was using it far, far too much. I wanted to use it in every image, and it was becoming a bit of a habit, so there we are. This was taken in London recently, like this image, and I will be entering it in the monthly competition at some stage in the monochrome category. This gentleman, the busker, very entertaining, should be on the stage, on screen definitely. I just like the angles of this and the shadows. This one here, category, and got a gold award in January of this year. Recently, I've got into the habit of adding textures to images. Again, without the texture, this image would not look the same. So I bring a texture into an image and sandwich it over the top of the original image and erase what I don't want the texture to cover and adjust the texture. The Guggenheim, Jay, you must get the Guggenheim just to see this, the wooden spider. If you suffer from arachnophobia, it's not advised, but I was just so fascinated by the size of this particular sculpture. The gentleman sitting here will give you some indication as to the size of it. I entered this in the monochrome category and got a gold award for this one as well. Really, really fascinated by the museum and this particular sculpture. Back to the Titanic, and this is Titanica. And for this I've simply used a plugin in CS5, and the reason I keep CS5 is because there's a free plugin called Pixel Bender, which is not compatible with CS6. It does give this sort of oil painted effect, and apparently it is better in Pixel Bender than it is in CS6 own filter gallery. So that's the reason I've kept on CS5 so that I can use Pixel Bender. This one was taken in Porto, and I named this one Waiting. Again, this is a sandwich of two images, a normal image sandwiched with texture, and it really does give almost an old master effect, I think, to the image. Inside me there's a hidden artist, a wannabe artist, so the fact that I can't paint this sort of satisfies my urge to be an artist. Close-up of Jaguar. I do sometimes take photographs of small product images, and this one wasn't taken for Jaguar, otherwise I'd be a very rich man, but it was at a car show and I thought the image lent itself to being photographed. This was taken in England. I had a chance to visit the place where they celebrate all those who have died in conflict throughout the various wars. So I thought it was appropriate, very effective with the shafts of light and the various greys and variations of monochrome in it, and this got me a gold award as well. Right, back to Coventry Cathedral. This sandwich of two images, trees from a local church sandwiched with the sculpture on the side of Coventry Cathedral, and I also added a pixel bender effect to this just to give me the overall image that I required. I love this image, not to everybody's taste, but I absolutely love this image. Now for anybody who watches Game of Thrones, this is a place called the Dark Hedges in Northern Ireland, and it was the location for one of the locations for the Game of Thrones. It's very, very threatening and it can be intimidating. These are 300-year-old trees, and I deny anybody, whether interested in photography or not, to come to this location and not want to photograph this. This was actually taken during the day, and I edited to make it look as if it was getting dusk or dark with the lights in the distance. Really, really, really pleased with this image. The Big Fish. This is another sculpture close to the harbour area and Titanic area in Belfast, and again I just felt it lent itself to being photographed. So this was the first time. There's a new section in the Society's monthly awards and monthly competition called Documentary. This image was taken in London at the Society's convention, and I thought that I particularly liked the almost triangular shape of the balloons and the natural reaction of the children to the balloons. This is the first entry I've ever entered in a documentary category, and it got me a gold award in the Society's competition in January. And those are a selection of my images. So back to you, Jay. If there's anything you want to ask or if there's anything else you want to see, fire away.
I'm just going to take the screen back there a second, Bud. But yes, we've got... I'll just show you my screen, so if you can just let me know when you guys can, well, your build, you can let me know when you can see your little pretty face there on the right hand side. I think you should be seeing it about now.
Will we see? No. Let's see if I push escape. I bet you'll see it now. That's me now, Jay.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. So,
There we go.
Bill, yeah, I've got a million questions for you, bud. But straight off the bat, I have to sort of just read out this last one. What an inspiring session, and thank you for sharing your images with me. And I have to reiterate that I'd only seen a few of your images before I got to know you a few months ago. And we've already talked at length about how I desperately need to come out to Northern Ireland, and you need to give me a tour. And get some photographs shot. I do have a big list of questions for you, Bill, but I did hang on to them because most of them are sort of general sort of questions that I know that you have, and you have answered some of these already, mate. So we will be repeating a few of them. Just to kick off with, if you can just remind people again of well, the cameras that you use, but more so your lens choice. That seems to be the biggest question that was coming through.
Right. The two cameras I use are the Nikon D700 and the Fuji X-E1. I already said the Fuji X-E1 won as a prize because it was Architectural Photographer of the Year last in 2012. So, and the lenses I use is a variety of lenses. Nikon, Nikon, the 105 micro macro lens Nikon, and the 50mm cut your throat sharpness 1.4 Nikon. One I used 14mm, which was recently put on 18 to 55mm. So those would be the selection of lenses which I would use for all of my images. So,
and would be fair to say that obviously, like myself, as we haven't discussed, but you know that I also, like you, I love to photograph architecture. That the wide angle is kind of the preferred lens for what you're doing, really.
Yep, I can manage with the 24 to 70 if I must, but in reality, the wider the better. If I can get, 14 to 24 is ideal, and I'm most comfortable with that lens when it comes to my architectural photography. And the same with the Fuji camera. I bought the 14mm recently, and really, I'm glad that I did. It was a worthwhile purchase. Yeah.
And likewise, I mean, obviously you've mentioned today that you're using the Nikon and you use the Fuji. Ourselves here, obviously we're Canon, but our desired lens for landscape and architectural photography, we've got a Sigma 10 to 24, which is my desired lens, and so.
Right, yep.
So the wide angle prefer, but the tools for the jobs, you know, you can still pick images out with a zoom lens, you know, from the landscape, as you're well aware, and the architecture, isn't it, Bill? So it's just personal preference.
It is very much personal preference, and I must say that Sigma 10 to 24, I once had that lens in a previous camera, and I loved that lens as well, Jay. But yeah, it is personal preference, as are cameras. I mean, I've heard arguments. I've seen people on the internet arguing about which is best, Nikon, or saying which is best. You know. A Mercedes, BMW, it's down to persons. You know, you've got the camera, you've got the eye for a photograph, and that's all you need.
Absolutely, in complete agreement with you there.
Get the nick of camera. So that's my attitude.
So apart from the lenses and your cameras, what's your general sort of equipment kit on a day out shooting buildings? And well, it leads me on to tripod.
Tripod, yeah. I give talks to photography clubs here in Northern Ireland, and I often describe myself as a lazy photographer, and that equates to not using a tripod. Now that's just me generalising. Of course, I use a tripod, but if I can get away without using a tripod, I don't. But of course, the night shots and long exposures, you obviously need a tripod. But yes, I use a tripod. I will carry a tripod with me of some description, and I will also carry flash gun, which at the moment happens to be the Nikon D900. If that's yep.
Brilliant. And like you, I'm an incredibly lazy architectural photographer, and my tripod, as much as Mark shouts at me, doesn't get used as much as it should. Actually, that's quite interesting that you mentioned about flash. Which there was a series of questions when we were looking at the stuff that you shot interior-wise in the cathedrals and the churches. The general question was there, are you using just available light, or have you been able to use any light of any source inside the church? I've always found that I've never been able to use light, and I have to use available light inside.
Truthful, I'm allergic to flash. Give me natural light all the time. Mark or all the time. Must be for all photographs I have not used flash. I'm terrified of flash. I'm terrified of unnatural light. I actually attended a seminar once given by John Denton, who obviously is well known to a lot of people out there. And while I enjoyed it and it was fascinating and educational, really, I suppose it's the stubbornness in me not wanting to use flash. No, if I can avoid using flash, I will avoid it. That's the bottom line.
Brilliant, great. Let's just recap as well, obviously, because a lot of people have mentioned about the finish, and you have a particular style which I love, as you know, and obviously so are our fans. So just recap on the software that you're using in the finish, and the sort of the tools that you sort of turn to every day with your architectural photography.
Right. Basically, I bring my images in to the camera. Sorry, into the computer. I open them up with Photoshop CS6 RAW converter. I do basic editing in the RAW conversion, bring it into Photoshop CS6, and then I go straight into either Nik software or the Topaz software. I use Color Efex Pro, I use HDR Efex Pro, Silver Efex Pro, and Viveza on a very few occasions. And on Topaz, I will use Adjust, Clarity, denoise, detail, remask, and very rarely I'll use the star effects. So basically, yeah, use very little of the CS software. Again, this has come back to being a lazy photographer, Jay. I know, and it's been explained to me, that most of the effects I get can be achieved in Photoshop, but I also know that it takes a lot more work and a lot more effort to do that purely in Photoshop. So the likes of the Nik software and the Topaz are a gift for me. They just make life so easy.
I'm in complete agree with you, and Mark here would be the same. You know, these things you can do in Photoshop. Obviously, like only difference between us and you is that you know that we're on one users. But again, I don't consider it lazy anymore, Bill. I actually see them as tools for the job, and I think we can lose too much time in the edit, whereas we don't have enough time in this day and age to be out shooting. And I think from our point of view, we would definitely prefer to spend more time shooting, and we use the tools that are available to us on a daily basis. We know, like you said, you have to have the eye for the image in the first place, and you do sort of see the finish when you understand the tools that you have back at the office, if you like, or back at your desk with Topaz, Nik software, or on one. You know what these things are going to bring to your images, so you're actually already thinking about that when you're actually taking, well, if I presume I am, and I'm speaking for you there, Bill, but I'm sure you're the same.
Yep. I mean, there's no doubt about it, saves an awful lot of time. I'm more likely to process more images because it is a much quicker process using that software. And as I explained to yourself as well, I'm a huge fan of the On1 software, but my Mac at the moment needs upgraded to be able to cope with the amount of hard drives or space that it needs to operate that software. So no doubt whenever I get an upgrade and I fork out for a new Mac, I'll also be using the On1. I can add the On1 software to my list of software as well. So, but yeah, that's it.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, I mentioned we'll do. I'll at the end we'll have a quick chat about On1. I've got some a nice offer, free offer there from our members as well for part of their software. So, and I've already said that you can have it once you're ready for it, as you well know.
Yeah, which is appreciated.
Any filters? Do you use any filters at all when you shoot in, Bill?
Never. Probably the only filter I would use occasionally would be a neutral density filter. I have used the big stopper.
Yeah.
And it's scary. As you know, and anybody out there knows it, you look through it and you wonder, have you got the lens cap on still? But I have used it on a few occasions. Other than that, apart from the filters to actually protect the lens, the UV or the skylight, I don't find the need for filters now because you have all the filters you need within the software. So, why use filters? So that's just my opinion.
I had a couple of questions that sort of came through back to back actually when we were looking at the photographs that you took inside the shopping centre, and I actually experienced this. Yep. Did you not have any problems with the security while you were there? Because I've been chased out.
Oh, yeah, listen, there's a story goes with that. Again, yeah. I'm trying to word this in a way that I won't get into trouble.
Oh, we've lost you there, Bill. Are you still with us, mate? Are you there, Bill?
Anyway, but in photographs of it, a lot of photographers that they didn't have a copyright, that the centre had copyright for those images. They weren't allowed to take images. Now, if you were to go to this centre today, Jay, you would see lots and lots of people with cameras taking photographs. That's when you get into trouble. So, I mean, those photographs are of no commercial value to me. They're purely on my website to show the type of work that I can do, that I'm capable of. But yes, when you go to any places like that, shopping centres, National Trust properties, you will find that this copyright thing kicks in. Even with some of the cathedrals, I went to one of the large cathedrals in mainland Britain, and I went in, I had to pay £5 for a pass to be allowed to take photographs with any type of camera. And then on it, it said that I was not allowed to show those photographs on even an internet site because of copyright. So you're up against that all the time, and it's just a question of dodging those rules and regulations. So, yeah, I can see there could be a problem.
No, I've been chased out of our yeah, it does. I've been chased. Well, not chased. I've been asked to stop photographing on 2 occasions in the same shop, but not as exciting or as elaborate as your shopping centre, unfortunately. But so yeah, just please be aware of that. But and the same with the churches. As Bill and I have already discussed, I also like to photograph architecture in churches, and I like to shoot the interiors. A lot of them will ask for payment, and you just usually just respect that. It's not usually a lot of money, and then you just abide. But again, it's for my portfolio more than anything else. Any images that I shoot, if I sell, then I make sure that I have the copyright on those images. Brilliant, thanks for that. So let me just. You go ahead, Bill. Sorry, I'm just reading through that. I'm just going through the list.
I adhere strictly to that. I mean, I would never dream of selling an image that I wouldn't have copyright for. As long as I can show those images to show the work that I can do, I'm happy enough with that, Jay, you know.
Brilliant. How much time would you say typically is spent on the finishing of an image, so that the post-production?
As quick as possible. Well, on average, yes, on average, most of the images you see, there are even the images which are sandwiched together like another image. I wouldn't spend any more than maximum of 20 minutes, probably 10, 20 minutes, most of those images. The other images, the general images, so the architectural images, yeah, you're talking the maximum of 20 minutes on one image. And during that 20 minutes, I'd probably create maybe 2 or 3 different variations of the one image. So, yeah, don't spend a lot of time.
So somebody's asked, somebody said obviously you've referred to SilverX Pro, SilverFX Pro, sorry, and that being a software that you use. They also use it. Do you have a favorite effect within SilverFX Pro?
I've quite a few. I'm trying to remember them all at the moment now. I know that I like the fine art one. I use it at the bottom, but of course the beauty of it, I don't like the fine art effect in itself, but I can adjust it to suit my tastes. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I've had a mental blank. I nearly need to open it up here and see what the different effects are, because I never note the effects. I just know when I go in and look, and I remember which ones I have. I wish I could remember the different effects there. If you knew them and you went through a list yourself, I could tell you, but I can't remember off the top of my head, James.
Well, maybe that's something that you, if you wouldn't mind, you could just actually compose for us. Maybe just write a list and I'll post it on the Facebook page or something like that. So
most definitely, yeah. I will let you know.
Brilliant, excellent. Okay, so somebody's asked us.
Having said, it isn't just a question of going in and pushing a button. It isn't just a question of going in and pushing a button, Jay. I go in, I select the one I like, but invariably I will tweak it and alter the settings to
Absolutely.
my
We're very much the same.
So I'm not so lazy to just go in and click a button. Yeah.
Excellent. But no, please do. Please let us know just some of your favourites, and I'll happily share that on. But often I find as well, I think much like yourself, that sometimes it's a combination of settings as well, isn't it? It's not always just the one preset, possibly you're using a combination of stuff.
Of course, I will also use, I will also go into the likes of Clarity to start with, or Topaz, the Topaz software to start with, and then I go into Silver Efex Pro. So I'll mix and match the different softwares even, so to get the effect that I want.
Funny you should mention the Topaz Clarity there, because that actually was a little bit further down my list, because you've referred to it a couple of times. I'm not familiar with the Topaz settings, but when I look at your work and I look at what the sort of settings that I use, it's very similar to it is slightly that I refer to it as drama. One of the software one of my favorite apps, in fact, is Snapseed, and they use an app. They have a setting called drama, which I think is very, very similar to what you use within Topaz.
Very effective, yeah.
It's very, very close to a HDR, isn't it? It's sort of bringing out that information, as you mentioned. So you might find.
But the other thing I like about Clarity, and the reason I use it probably more than any other plugin, Jay, is the fact that it adds contrast to the image. But what it doesn't do, and what it's very careful not to do, it doesn't burn out the highlights. It only adds contrast to those areas of the image that require the contrast. So that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, no, really good. Yeah, brilliant on that. You've mentioned a couple of times that you've obviously been able to sell your images. Do you have any advice on how to get your images out there for sale? Or is it just purely from your website that you're selling?
No. I actually have because a lot of my images would be Titanic themed. And Titanic itself, the people who own Titanic only deal with the merchandising people. So basically, my Titanic images have gone through friends of mine who own a company called White Star Mementos, who sell everything related to Titanic. So they approached Titanic and various other outlets to sell my images. My images are being sold as mounted prints, and also this month there are 14 images are going into various outlets as greetings cards, high quality greetings cards. I also sell framed images from home. When I have an exhibition, I had an exhibition for 7 months in a local outlet, and I sold a number of framed images from there. But so generally speaking, I don't sell over the internet. I haven't yet, but no, I sell through usually an intermediary, and that's my way of doing it.
Sure. Well, the only thing that I can sort of add to that is that I've photographed the Millennium Centre in Cardiff, which we refer to as the Armadillo, and I just actually went into the building, into the gift store, and showed them my work, and then they offered to sell it for me, and they take a percentage of the overall print. And again, it was a printed board, like a poster board that I was doing for them. So make the sales, isn't it? Make the sales yourselves. Use the evidence, and don't be afraid to ask people.
Exactly.
In the surroundings.
But there's so much interest. There's so much interest here. Not just here, but worldwide, in anything related to Titanic. I mean, the first image I showed you, the Titanic drawing office, that has been by far my most successful image, and I've sold hundreds and hundreds of those. So if you get the right image, which has a universal appeal, I think that can get you on that ladder, you know.
Absolutely. Okay, Bud, we'll get back to some photography questions. Do you have any composition rules, or you are just happy to break them, or do you have do you use thirds? Is there anything that you stand by when you photograph?
Oh yeah, well, generally speaking, I will use the rule of thirds, and as you know yourself, that the rules are there sometimes to be broken.
Sure.
So if it suits the image, fine and well, and if it doesn't, no. Sometimes I use, my first thoughts are of the basic rules, your eye leading into the image, and how it should read from, the way a book should read from right.
Fair enough. Brilliant.
My instinct will be to think of basic rules of photography. I decide what I tell them to do so.
But but break them, innit? Always happy to break them. Yeah, I think I think when you get in, when you.
Oh yeah. Well, if I get the chance to break them, yep.
And I think the other thing that we've discussed, and we've had
can't be that rigid, you know.
We've had the luxury of obviously chatting previous to today, but one of the things that I remember you bringing up to me before, and one of the golden rules that I've been sort of told about when I'm photographing things, and I think like myself, you've always got an extent of some kind of camera with you, whether it be your phone or whether it be your Fuji, or you're never without a camera. But look around you, isn't it? Don't just look forward. Just always pervade the scene.
No.
And so many people, get transfixed looking forward. And one of the things that I was taught very early on by a landscape photographer was you might, don't forget to look behind you. But I, like you, can spend hours at a building, and looking for those photographs. And it's incredibly inspiring. We're getting towards the end of the questions. We're getting there. Somebody has suggested, if you haven't already, have you photographed the Manchester Football Museum?
That's a controversial question because I could make lots of enemies here. But yeah, I don't want to get rude emails. I've been a Manchester United supporter since 1967. Because of the George Best connection,
right?
But I've visited it. I haven't visited it since I've been into digital photography. If I get over with the digital camera, that will be high on my list of priorities.
Well, Wayne is online with us, and he suggests that we photograph it. So if you do come over here, then we're meeting up, and we'll both go and because I haven't seen it. So he's saying that we should see it. So I think that's something we need to put on our list there. I'll take anybody's recommendations, and I've already got a list of all of Bill's locations that I need to visit on that. So that's excellent. This is quite an interesting. Are you okay for time, Bill? I know we're running over slightly. Are you okay to stay?
Oh, I'm fine. Oh no, I'm fine. Yeah,
we're getting there. We're getting there. Do you research your shooting locations, and do you make any scouting trips, or are you like me and you've just always got your camera with you?
I've learned through experience to always have my camera with me, because on so many occasions I've been caught out where I've been somewhere thinking I'll probably not take any photographs today. You've time to kill, so you walk in somewhere into a building or whatever, and you think, why didn't I bring the camera? Hobbiter through windows is just perfect. It's exactly the atmosphere I want. And you kick yourself. Maybe wait months and months before you replicate the same again. So usually now I will not, if I'm going out, I will have it in my mind to take photographs, and I'll carry my camera with me. I've been caught out too often. And of course it's a bit easier now with the Fuji because it's so small. So I don't have to hawk all the heavy gear about all the time. So.
Oh, I'm with you on that. Absolutely with you on that. Okay, just a couple left there, Bill. Please don't feel free to answer this question, but I will ask it. For example, with the Titanic image that you've sold the most of, what kind of price is on that when it sells? If you don't mind sharing that with us.
No, well. Basically, I can give you two prices here, which will shock people. The price that I would sell the 8x6, and I insist on my products being top quality, and I put a little information slip in the back of my products. Mine are professionally printed. They're on acid-free mounts, conservation quality mounts, and basically an 8x6 in a 10x12 mount. I can sell that for £12. If you buy that in some of the outlets in Belfast, and I'll not mention too many, you're looking at £25, which is quite an increase. But round about the £10 to £12 mark, I will sell an 8x6 in a 10x12 mount. That would be my prices.
Brilliant. To be honest, most of I've just had a quick scan of the rest of the other questions, Bill, and we have answered them there, mate.
Answered most of them anyway. Yep.
So that's been absolutely. And I've had loads of praise and inspiration. So thank you from the viewers, not just from me. There's been lots of fantastic feedback there, and loving the images, and you sharing the images with us. That's quite interesting.
But before you finish with me, sure. If I could just give a huge thank you to yourself and Mark, Photographer Academy, for giving me this opportunity to talk about my photographic journey. So it's really appreciated, and I feel, looking at your previous contributors, I feel it is quite an honour to have taken part in this today.
Well, yeah, the honour's ours, Bill, and we were thrilled to have you with us and to share your images with you today. And we've already discussed that I am hoping to spend some time with you this year, and we'll hopefully we'll come to your patch and get some film shot with you. Well, I want to visit those. I want to come and shoot. As you know, we haven't talked about it, but I shoot infrared architecture. So I want to come up. I want to do a shoot with you, and I want to shoot it my way and shoot it your way, and let's have a look at it, isn't it? I think that would be really exciting. So I'm definitely going to be working on Mark to get me out there, hopefully, with you this year. If not, I'll just come on one of my breaks, and you can. I want to go to the Game of Thrones trees. That's just, yes, please. So well, you can show me around, Bill. Absolutely, mate.
Oh, that's something else. Yeah.
On the screen at the moment, guys, if you're still with us,
happily do that for my friend. Yep.
Brilliant. There's a link there to Bill's site, so as he's already said, please get in touch with him if you want to, and if you're around his neck of the woods, I'm sure he'll give you some pointers on what to photograph on that. Just before I do, you go ahead, mate.
Yeah, Jed, I just meant to say to everybody out there from whatever part of the world, if they want to fire me an email, I'm happy to answer any emails and to give any advice. I'm more than happy to do that. In fact, I thrive in doing that. I just love passing on.
Oh, that's brilliant, mate.
Anybody who'd find it.
Thank you very, very much, Bill, for joining us this afternoon. Loads of great thanks. I'm definitely going to be chatting to you later on this year, and definitely, hopefully, getting some film shot with you this year as well, mate. So thanks again for joining us. I hope it wasn't too terrifying for you, Bill, and you can open your bottle of whiskey now, mate.
Cheers. Cheers, Mark. You're very, very welcome.
Okay, guys, thanks, everybody. I'm just going to stop the recording and finish for the day. So thanks again. All the best. Enjoy the rest of your day. And thanks again to Bill from all of us here at the Photographer Academy.